This is the DeMaio Show, and we're giving you the story behind the story. We're leading the fight to take back our state for a better California. Let's talk about my favorite topic, and that's securing the border and curbing illegal immigration. I recently held a town hall in Santee where I invited Christopher Harris, an expert in border security. He served for many years as a Border Patrol agent, also served on the Border Patrol Agent Union Board here in San Diego for the San Diego sector. And I also was joined by angel moms. Angel moms and dads are parents of people who've been killed by illegal immigrants, criminals, people who are committing not inadvertent acts, but actual criminal acts and killing American citizens. And these angel moms, Melanie Cortland and Agnes Gibney, joined me to talk about their pain and what they are doing each and every day to try to get members of Congress to focus on this issue of border security and dealing with illegal immigrant crime throughout our communities. Of course, what we heard was pretty depressing. The angel moms say that every time they go to D.C., members of Congress from both political parties, with rare exception, basically give them either no time of day or they're polite and they smile and nod, but no action's happening. And then, of course, Christopher Harris has shared a lot of on-the-ground information about how border security can be done. It's not mysterious. This is a solvable problem if we actually trust the experts like Chris, Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, who know what we need to do. The real problem here is Congress. Congress refuses to act. We have a president that's willing to act boldly. He's committed. He's getting a lot of heat for the basic notion that he would secure the border and deal with the illegal immigration. And so I decided to listen to the experts and listen to these angel parents and put together a plan on what we can do to force the political system to actually act on border security and on curbing illegal immigration. And what you're going to find is that there's a dirty secret. Let me let you in on the dirty secret. We're never going to get a secure border unless we change the political dynamics. We have members of Congress on the Democrat side who want open borders because they want the votes. They want illegal immigrants to come into this country because they think that they're going to be able to get the votes from those individuals. And then we also have Republicans who want an open border because their business backers are telling them that they should have an open border because it means cheap labor for business. Oh, yes, the cozy, incestuous swamp. You will hear Republicans say, oh, I'm for border security, but then they go back and they don't actually act on those commitments. So here's what we have to do. First, we have to lay out our list of demands. And that's why I've laid out a 5-point border security initiative. It outlines real solutions, not only to secure the border, but to end the incentives that have allowed for rampant illegal immigration. Second, you got to not just have a plan, you got to have a hammer. And that hammer is the first of its kind, a border super PAC. It's called Secure the Borders Super PAC. And this super PAC can raise funds from individuals to target open borders politicians for defeat at the ballot box. Oh, yeah. What we need to do is literally get a hammer that's properly funded, that has a heavy impact, and we go to Washington and say, hey, Republicans, if you guys just give us lip service, but then don't vote for border security, you don't support the president, we'll take you out of office in your next primary. Yep, and we've got the money to do it. We're not going to tell you which one of you we're going to go after, but we have the money to take one of you out. All it takes is just the threat against one of them, and they don't know if it's going to be them or someone else sitting next to them, but they will all fall in line, with rare exception. Secondly, we get to turn to the Democrats once we get the Republicans in line saying, okay, we know you guys aren't worried about your primaries, except for the other side of the coin, because you're going to get some fringe activists talking about open borders and asylum and amnesty. But we're going to take a couple of you out of office so that we can replace you with good Republicans and get back the majority. So that's how that super PAC is going to work. Ideas without the hammer or leverage, well, frankly, it's just debate, philosophy, public policy musings. If you want change, you got to have this super PAC. So that's what I've put together as the 5-point plan and this concept of a hammer behind it to hammer the heck out of Republicans who are weak and open border Democrats to change the political dynamic in Washington, D.C. I think that's what it's going to take. So let me talk about the 5-point plan. By the way, this 5-point plan has been getting lots of support from the border security experts, immigration experts, and the angel moms. I've been so blessed to have their support in this process. They've said that you're hitting all the points. If we just implement these issues, we'll have a secure border. It's not a mystery. So let's go through the 5 points. Number 1, border security requires that we build the wall and other infrastructure, but build the wall and staff the border. Now, you heard the president talking about building the wall, and Congress has undercut him in every step of the way. But we also need to staff the border. We have anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 or 4,000 Border Patrol staff positions that are vacant at any given time. It's hard to recruit for Border Patrol agents, hard to recruit for ICE agents, partly because of the fact that they're attacked by Democrats as Nazis. Yeah, when someone calls a profession a group of Nazis, not a whole lot of people are going to be lining up to apply for that job. So the Democrats have really hurt these men and women who are just doing a job and doing a good job and doing an important job. But it does discourage people from saying, I'll go to the Border Patrol versus I'll serve like the FBI or some other federal agency. But also, we've got really complex hiring rules and regulations. And what it means is that it takes 18 to 24 months to give someone an offer of a job. Oh, yeah. Do you think millennials are going to stay around for 2 years while they're waiting to see whether they might get a job with the Border Patrol? No, they're going to go take another job. You have about 2 weeks to get them an offer letter, not 2 years. And so as part of my plan, number 1, we would provide the funding for the wall, the fence, the barriers, the infrastructure needed along the southern border that the experts have requested. I'm not looking at this as political. Politicians shouldn't decide where the infrastructure goes. It should be the experts at Border Patrol. And what they're asking for is what we have down in San Diego, the double fence, which, it's basically a wall. Okay. We are replacing at the southern border here in San Diego, the sheet metal, small fence that is easily scaled by illegal immigrants with the help of the coyotes. We're replacing that with the slat metal fence / wall, but not just one of them, but 2 of them. And in the middle of those 2 fences is a road. And that road allows the Border Patrol agents, once illegal immigrants try to jump over one of the fences, they use the road to quickly go and apprehend them before they get over the second fence and get into the United States. That's the whole purpose of having 2 walls, 2 fences with the road. It is a infrastructure aid, a tool to help the Border Patrol agents get to the point before they actually step foot on U.S. soil so that we can turn them back. Because you all know the laws, which we'll talk about in a minute, have all sorts of loopholes based upon if you actually step foot in the United States. So how do we fund all this? Well, we would require that every fee paid for a visa or an enforcement action taken against an individual or a company for illegal employment, those funds would not go to the U.S. Treasury. They would go to a revolving fund, a special fund controlled by the Border Patrol. No congressional interference, no congressional appropriation. We would create a self-funding mechanism for enforcement and infrastructure investment at the border. Very similar to the Patent and Trademark Office. When you apply for a patent, you pay a fee. That fee doesn't go to the Treasury. It stays at PTO, the Patent and Trademark Office, to actually run the agency absent a congressional appropriation. Finally, I would cut the red tape on hiring so we can hire these Border Patrol agents faster, get them on the front lines. So that's reform 1. Build the wall, fully staff it. Now, coming up, I'm going to talk about the other 4 reforms, but first, these messages.
Carl DeMaio here. From rating our road improvement funds for bus and bike lanes to gas taxes and congestion taxes, politicians keep making it harder to drive. Traffic will only get worse unless we demand change. Join me, Carl DeMaio, by signing the petition at fixsandiegoroads.org.
Carl DeMaio thinks it's time to clean up the mess in Congress and take a new approach to solving problems. That's why Carl DeMaio is proposing the Fix Congress First plan. Make Congress live under the same laws the rest of us do. No special exemptions. Eliminate lavish congressional pensions and other perks. Force Congress to open up its own books and records to public review. Make Congress read the bills first before they vote on them. No budget, no pay. Permanently take away Congress's pay for every day the budget is late. If we want better results from Washington, we need to start by fixing Congress first. That's why it's time to help Carl DeMaio get his Fix Congress First plan enacted. Sign Carl's petition and help fix Congress first.
You're listening to the Carl DeMaio Show. We're talking about border security and my 5-point plan, the Border Security Initiative, which would be supported by a super PAC. This is important. You can't just lay out good ideas in Washington. You got to have a hammer to force those ideas through the political system, and motivate members of Congress to take action rather than just spout rhetoric. We talked about our first reform in my 5-point plan, Border Security Initiative, which is fund the infrastructure, build the wall, and staff it. Make sure that we have the adequate staffing of Border Patrol agents to actually apprehend and turn back people trying to cross illegally into the United States. By the way, the revolving fund would not only fund staffing for Border Patrol, it also funds staffing for ICE, because we have 11 million plus illegal immigrants in this country. When we need the staffing to be able to identify the riskiest ones and then apprehend them and deport them. And so the staffing strategy here, this first strategy is crucial because Congress doesn't want to fully staff ICE or Border Patrol. They don't want to fund the infrastructure. And that's one of the biggest problems we're having. They shut down government over this. And you saw that the president had to take extraordinary action to reprogram money. And he's being sued over that. Thank goodness the courts have supported him thus far. But let's actually create a model where there's a self-financing mechanism where politicians can't hijack the money and undercut our ability to secure the border. So that's number one. Number two. And this second one is so crucial because you can have all the infrastructure in the world, you can have all the staffing in the world, but the reality is the laws are the problem. Immigration and asylum laws have all sorts of loopholes so that the coyotes and illegal immigrants and all their advocates like La Raza and Border Angels and all these other cat and dog nonprofit groups, they know how to work these broken laws to get people into this country and keep them in this country. And so we've got to change the laws, reform the dysfunctional immigration and asylum laws so that we have the tools to actually turn people back. So first and foremost, reform the asylum law. We would do this by forcing applications in the home country of the individual or in a third-party country. You can't just show up at our southern border and say, let me in. We would have to require that they seek asylum at the consulate or the embassy in their home country or neighboring country. Also, we should designate Border Patrol agents as asylum hearing officers so they can make determinations in the field on whether to accept or reject claims for asylum. Finally, if an asylum seeker attempts to illegally enter the United States, the Border Patrol can reject that individual's claim on the spot without appeal. Now, for people who say, well, we need to have due process. Okay, fine. Totally. Well, you can appeal your asylum rejection only to an immigration court, but first you must post bond to pay for the appeal. That's right. Why should taxpayers pay for an appeal that we know you're going to fail on? You want to go into court, you got to post bond to pay for the full hearing. And by the way, while you wait for that hearing, you got to stay outside the United States. Oh, and by the way, if you lose that hearing, we collect your bond. I think it will deal with a lot of the asylum seekers who are basically fraudulent. They're abusing the asylum program to get in the United States. And remember why we have the asylum laws. It's because of the dark chapter of our history, World War II, when we turned away the Jews from Germany. We said, no, we're not going to take you. And, of course, the Holocaust resulted. We have asylum laws for a reason. We are generous with our asylum process, and that generosity is being abused by illegal immigrants and their handlers. We've got to reform the system. Third, we need to repeal the incentives for illegal immigrants to come to the United States. These are the public incentives. So we would repeal sanctuary state and city laws so that criminals know that when they are caught, we're going to punish them and deport them, and they can never come back. We're not going to just let you go back out into our communities and commit more crimes. We also have to cut taxpayer-funded welfare benefits for illegal immigrants. Recently, Gavin Newsom signed a bill giving taxpayer-funded health care to illegal immigrants, while at the same time increasing a tax on citizens for their health care. Absolute slap in the face. And it's welfare benefits like this, the free school, the free health care, that's giving these illegal immigrants all the incentive in the world to show up. We used to have immigration where people paid their own way. We used to have immigration rules enforced where if you got public welfare, you had to pay for it through a sponsor, or you would forfeit your ability to be in the United States. We used to have those laws. We used to enforce those laws, but we haven't. President Trump is trying to, but we have to go much farther than that. We have to reform all of the welfare benefit programs so that not a penny can be issued, and that if someone does seek assistance, that it is reimbursed through a bond posted by a sponsor. Also, make sure that sanctuary cities are liable to pay damages to victims of criminals that they shield. You see, these politicians would very quickly realize that their rear end is on the line for shielding some of these criminals. And that liability, I think, would force this issue to be changed. Let's talk about the fourth reform, and that is eliminating the lure of illegal employment. We got to mandate E-Verify and enforce E-Verify on all employers in the United States. We live in a technologically savvy world. Don't tell me you can't verify the legal status of someone applying for a job. The government seems to be able to collect taxes for everyone on payroll. We should be able to identify whether you are legally here or not legally here. And that's where E-Verify comes in. E-Verify has not been mandated. E-Verify has not been enforced. That's what has to happen. And these businesses need to be punished if they're repeat offenders. And the funds from any of the fines that they pay should be going into that revolving fund I talked about earlier. And then finally, number 5, we need to end chain migration. We need to reform our immigration laws so that only the best and brightest are invited into our country. Right now, it's anchor babies, it's who you know, it's bloodline. That's my grandmother. It's my second cousin twice removed. Nope, that's not going to be allowed anymore. We will vet everyone based on merit. What have you done in the past? Do you have a clean record? What skills do you have? Why do you want to be an American? And nobody is saying that we shouldn't have immigration legally into this country. Legal immigration has built our country up very strong, and we embrace it. It is what America is all about. But we need to make sure that it's not just simply, you're related to someone, but rather, what have you brought to the table? What do you represent? And let's make an individual determination, a merit-based determination that we're inviting you to this special experiment called America. That's fair. That's equitable. And it helps our country build its strength. Now, I hope you appreciate and support these 5 initiative points, because if we don't do these 5 things in concert, we're not going to get a handle on illegal immigration, and we're not going to be able to secure the border. it starts with these 5 reforms. There are additional reforms I'm sure that we need to implement, but these 5 are critical as the foundation. They're supported by the border security and immigration experts. They're supported by the Angel Mom and Angel Dad network, and I need your support. So help me get to Congress so that I can be the voice on this, and that we can organize things like that super PAC to put pressure on Congress. Of course, I will not be able to coordinate with the super PAC, but I certainly like the idea of one from outside pressuring my colleagues to take action. Join me at carldemaio.com, carldemaio.com, and contribute $5. That's all it takes. Share my website, sign up to volunteer, but I need you in this fight if we're going to secure the border, if we're going to curb illegal immigration. That does it for us. Continue to share the podcast with your friends on their favorite podcast app or at forbettercalifornia.org. We'll pick it up next time. Thank you. This podcast was paid for by Carl DeMaio for Congress. I'm Carl DeMaio, and I approve this message.